morning. I am not Ramona Pearson, so she unfortunately had a family emergency and wasn't able to join us. So I've been asked to take over and give her talk today. So the last time I was given the opportunity to fill in for somebody, it was a little bit more dangerous than this one. It was about 20 years ago. I was at the University of Texas. Somebody said, "Hey, can you go give that talk you gave last week about online professional development?" Sure. No warning. I'm driving up there. I'm not 100% sure when they told me who I was covering for, but I ended up walking into a room with about 400 well-dressed Texan women expecting to see none other than Barbara Bush, the former First Lady of the United States. And so if you can imagine the disappointment at that moment, I was just happy to get out of there alive. But they were all very sweet at the end and commented quite a bit. Things like, bless your heart for taking over for Barbara Bush. Of course, I was a newly transplanted Texan. I didn't recognize until about 2 years later that wasn't actually a very nice thing to say. So hopefully this will be a little bit more aligned because I am not Barbara Bush. I'm not Ramona Pearson, but I am Mark Litzel-Schwab. And so who am I? I've been in ed tech for 30 years. Started off writing hypercard stacks for physics instruction many, many years ago. And worked nonprofits, for-profits, colleges, universities, and now I work for this small startup called Amazon. At Amazon, I work for the education group. The education group is set up to really make sure that all of you can benefit from the services that Amazon provides, Amazon Web Services provides. It's broken into 4 groups. So the biggest part of the group is really focused on making sure that all y'all can find the services you need, get the support you want. And it's broken down by ed techs, publishers, higher ed, and K-12. So if you fall into any one of those categories, which pretty much everyone does in this room, that group is for you. We also have a couple other groups. One is focused on bringing other Amazon technologies into the marketplace, things like Alexa. Some great examples out there about how people have brought Alexa into the dorm rooms and really enhanced the student experience. The next group is Educate, who I think presented as well as this conference. The AWS Educate program is something that's designed to help anybody who wants to learn cloud skills get that training for free. And I'll cover that a little bit more later in the talk. And then there's the last group, which is my group, which is focused on solutions. We're trying to build solutions that start to close the gap between the services that are provided by AWS and the academic missions of our customers. And in that space is going to be work around personalized learning and data interoperability, and that's what we'll cover today. What we're seeing now is an evolution in learning from a one-size-fits-all to multiple options for one. The current model, despite all the efforts that we've taken in online and blended learning, is still very standardized. We're trying to take people, push them through a process, and even though a lot of the courses and the work teachers have done, instructors have done, have really personalized experiences within the classes, the overall structure is still very standardized, and we're putting people into pathways. But that's not the world we have today. I give a presentation to 6th graders almost every year, and I'll ask 3 of the 6th graders, I want the 3 of you to tell me what you're going to be when you grow up. You might imagine what they get for answers. Last time I got doctor, lawyer, and accountant. And I said, well, 2 of you are wrong. Right? Because 2/3 of the jobs that those 6th graders are going to have when they get out to the working world don't even exist yet. They're going to be based on technologies that haven't even been invented yet. And so we're creating a standardized model to try to get people to a world that's not standardized. We have an increasingly crowded state of learning. What this means is that there's an enormous amount of content available today for people to use to learn. And not all of it's based on a textbook. There's all the MOOCs that we know about, there's OER, there's lots of free content out there. All this can help you learn new skills. And these new skills are necessary because the employers are changing the work world as we talk about it. Like I was saying, 2/3 of jobs haven't even been created yet. But and Amazon Web Services, of course, is one of the biggest culprits of this. We're always changing and innovating and bringing new things to market at well over 1,900 new features last year alone on Amazon Web Services. So if you're in the business of making training for Amazon Web Services, you're always changing your content. Then the third part's actually really what's changing lately is that people are starting to bring themselves into their education needs. They want to use education for them as opposed to going through the process. And going back to those sixth graders, after I somewhat crushed some of their dreams about being a doctor or a lawyer, I always ask them, is there a problem that you want to solve? And what comes back is always interesting because the problems they want to solve are intensely personal. So remember they said, hey, there's some jobs that I want to take. These are generic things, doctor, lawyer. But when they talk about problems they want to solve, it's about something they've experienced. I want to reduce the amount of time people spend in traffic because I keep getting stuck in traffic on the way to school. Personal. My aunt died of breast cancer, and I wish I could help cancer patients live longer. Again, intensely personal. And so as our work lives and our home lives get increasingly integrated, the personal interests become super important. And so what we're seeing is that we don't have a tailored model of education that really fits the needs of our students here. And so we're also seeing an incredible gap in between what the employers are looking for and what kind of credentials people have. So recent work in Dallas, it's about 15% of the students who are in 8th grade are going to get an advanced credential in the center of Dallas. And 60-some% of the jobs require an advanced credential. So you're seeing a massive skills gap. There's plenty of people there to take the jobs, not enough people are filling the jobs. And so we're seeing that something's got to change with this model. And the key to all this is data. So without data, we can't make a change. Interoperability of this data is it will change how we approach the overall education process. So we have students who need to know what employers are looking for. We have educators who need to know what employers are looking for. And we have to make sure that all this data is available and it works together, because data in itself has no value, but when you're able to use the data to solve a problem, that has value. And under all these connections here between the students and educators are systems. Now, walk around the show here or ISTE or EDUCAUSE, you'll see thousands of different pieces of technology. All of those things generate a lot of new data that can be captured. And I think there's a huge value in the data about the students, not just their results. And technology rebels, here we go. Okay, the future of learning is around pathways. And so what we're not going to see is simple job titles. We're going to start seeing skills maps. So a financial analyst, I didn't make these slides, remember, it's somebody else's speech. Does anybody still do Visual Basic? I'll pick on whoever did this one. But I saw this come in just a moment ago. Senior financial analyst. So what you're seeing is that each of these positions is really just a collection of skills, and that you can take these skills and make a hard right turn in your work life just by understanding what's next, what's possible. With all the skills that this person have, she can take a hard right turn and become a software developer. So this is the future of learning. It's a personalized learning path. It's about finding where you find fulfillment and being able to use education to reach that goal as opposed to going through an educational process. The solution, of course, is making sense out of all the content noise. This is where machine learning really comes in. So remember all those systems we mentioned before about the ed tech system and so forth? These things generate enormous amounts of data. They need to be harnessed and be able to use that data to help people personalize their pathways. The current state of data does not power machine learning. My daughter, middle school last year, I counted maybe 80 data points that I received in a year. That's how many data points were recorded about her academic history in 1 year. That's nowhere near enough to start looking at machine learning. Even worse, I was at a community college, and I visited with the community college leadership there, and I asked them, how do you know when students start dropping out? What are the indicators? And the response was, well, the parking gets easier. Now, to credit, they're working very hard to change this. That's why I was there. But she said the current state is that we realize that students are dropping out because the parking is easier. Contrast that to the work at Ivy Tech Community College, where they were able to take all the data from all their different systems and instrument that to a point where within 2 weeks of a student starting a class, they used machine learning to predict with 83% accuracy if a student was going to fail that class. And not only did they do that, they were able to reach out to those students and give them a simple nudge. It seems like a very, simplistic thing to do after all that work, all the technology work. They just called the students. And we're able to see around 15% gains in just simply calling them and asking them, hey, are you having trouble getting online? Is there something that you want to talk about? They didn't call them up and said, hey, we think you're going to fail. That's usually not a good strategy. But they were able to reach out and make a difference. So the big part about the difference between what you're seeing in a lot of systems that exist today and what they were doing at Ivy Tech and other systems where they're using machine learning is they're looking at behaviors, not results. So remember my daughter's example, 80 data points, they're all results. They're just scores on tests. What they were looking at in the Ivy Tech example is behaviors that led to success. So instead of just looking at scores, they went and did the analysis. What are the behaviors that lead to success? And there were things like logging in more than once a week onto the learning management system. It was submitting the first assignment on time, whether or not it was any good. Being able to do something, I think it was on the student information system about their status or their plan, setting up a course plan. These are the types of things that they were able to do and notice as behaviors that led to success. And so they were using machine learning to look at the behaviors, not the results. And so I think the future here around education data in order to support personalized learning is really about how do we instrument all of our systems to talk about how people interact with them. So if somebody is taking a quiz and they get some of the problems wrong, do they stop and you tell them that and you give them the opportunity to go back? What they do next is largely indicative of how well they understand not only the content, but also how to learn. So two people that get the same score on a test may have a very different experience and they may have very different learning abilities. And so being able to look at how people interact is much more important than the actual results of the interaction. And so what we're hoping to see is a shift from just having data about everybody to looking towards intelligence. We're looking from a shift of a button that works. There you go, scheduled classes. They're not going to go away. I mean, we'll still have scheduled classes, we'll still have colleges and all those types of things, but we may have much more of ubiquitous learning, which made her happy. Did you know she wasn't smiling when she was a financial analyst? Now she's smiling. We have a regimented curriculum, which everybody is kind of going into and following through a particular pathway, moving towards a more personalized pathway through the curriculum. And we're going to get instead of having simple platforms to work with, we're going to have platform independence, and the data coming in from all the different systems will allow us to get the personalized pathways that we want to accomplish. So what do we have going on at Amazon these days? I mentioned earlier the AWS Educate Program. A few 100,000 students have already signed up to get free training on AWS cloud skills. It's available to any institution, so if you are at an academic institution, you can go ahead and sign your students up. It includes all the training you need. It includes labs, online labs, and access to the AWS console and credits, so you don't have to pay anything to do that work. But everything you need to achieve the basic certifications, and then even some advanced work like machine learning. We've been very deeply involved with the EdFi Alliance. This is an organization, we talked about data interoperability. They're focused on how do you get data together. This one is only in K-12, but it's really about how do we get data together from multiple sources, primarily student information systems and assessment systems, bring that data together and be able to report on it and be able to have a sort of a region of truth for a K-12 organization. It used to take months to set up on-premise, setting up the servers, getting everything running. Takes about 40 minutes with a single cloud formation template on AWS. So it's really something that's within reach now. It used to be a little bit out of reach. Now with AWS, it's within reach. And last, the EdStart program. The EdStart program is really focused on helping education technology companies get off the ground. Helps them with credits, support, community, advice, everything that they need to get launched. And I don't know how many groups are in the EdStart program today, but it's helping a lot of great organizations take their idea and get into the market and make something effective for learning. So this is what we see as the future of learning. We think it is going to be a place where there's personalized pathways, where people take ownership of what they're trying to achieve, and the system starts to adapt to them. Now, one thing I want to caution before I finish up here is that I don't believe that this means that everybody sits in front of a computer. I just left a talk from Ed Week, and they had a picture of hundreds of kids sitting in tiny cubicles, each with one computer in it. I don't think that's personalized learning. Personalized learning doesn't mean content recommendation engines. It means that the system, not just the technology or the individual class, but the entire system is adjusted to fit the needs of the learner. And so I don't want to think that this is something that we want everybody to sit in front of a computer and learn all day. The robots shouldn't be teaching us. We still have an entire ecosystem out there which needs to adapt. I think the fellow after me is also going to talk a little bit about the we part of it, the community part of learning, which is also super important. So I'll stop there. Appreciate the time that you've given me. And if you have any questions about what we're working on at AWS, anything about the group that I'm working with, please grab me afterward. You can stop, say hi, or bless your heart, one of the two. And appreciate the time you've given me. Thank you.